Dave, remember the feeling of watching Saturday morning cartoons with your favorite bowl of sugary cereal?
Sure.
Well, what if I told you that you could recapture that feeling, but without the guilt of eating cereal that's bad for you?
I'd say you must be talking about Magic Spoon.
That's right, Dave. And now you can get a variety pack with 4 featured flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. This pack has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs. Each serving is only 140 calories. They're keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb.
My favorite flavor is the frosted.
Spice up your peanut butter cereal by slicing up some fresh banana in it. That's what I did.
Go to magicspoon.com/AIC to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code AIC at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked.
Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/AIC and use the code AIC to save $5.
Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting. Dave, we're back.
I didn't even get to say hi.
I know. I wanted to throw you for a loop.
Yeah, you jumped on top of what I was saying this time.
Right?
It's a special episode in that regard, but it's also a special episode because Eric's not going to bury the lead.
I'm not. So coming in hot from a rather show-stealing set of reveals during last week's San Diego Comic-Con, and just before one of the biggest pro wrestling events of the year, being SummerSlam, we are thrilled to welcome returning guest Steve Ozer and first-time guest Bill Miekina of the WWE team at Mattel. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, guys.
Hey guys, great to be back.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I mean, it's especially, during any circumstance, it would be fun to welcome you guys to the show. But considering the event that you guys just had, my goodness,
yeah,
we have quite a bit to talk about, right?
We tried. I think we delivered,
and you succeeded.
So, Steve, as you're aware, the first guest, or the first question that we ask all of our guests, really, before we dive in, this goes to both of you. What are you guys currently collecting right now?
Let me begin. I'm trying to finish a Popey collection of the original 10 Japanese Popey action figures from 1980. And as it stands right now, after this week, I am only missing one. So if anyone has a basically mint Bob Backlund Popey, hit me up. And I'm also, as of today, I think I just started the 7-inch G.I. Joe collection from Hasbro. I think the Antlion trap sprung today. This could be problematic, but hey, you only live once.
The 7-inch line, or the classifieds, or the Super 7s?
The Hasbro, the ones that look like the old figures. Like the ones that they came out a few years ago, I really wasn't feeling those. I thought they were a little too off model from the original appearance, which is what I really wanted. But then I saw their display at San Diego Comic-Con with a whole bunch of them that looked exactly like just big versions of the 3 3/4 inch. I'm like, oh well, that's kind of what I wanted all along. So.
Well, enjoy that rabbit hole.
And congrats on that AAA Kellyan set.
Yeah, it was a good collection.
That ruled. I saw that. I'm like, whoa.
So yeah, that was a lucky break. So I'm happy that I was able to basically finish that all at once.
Bill, I don't know if you saw, speaking of classified, I'm also collecting classified. the Gung Ho, Lady J, and Destro are all available now for end shipping at Walmart.com. So,
I ordered Gung Ho and Destro today. If Lady J's still on there, I'll have to add her to the order.
And they're on those nice retro cards too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know when this airs. I might have to go ahead and fund that hiss too.
Well, I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to get that retro Cobra Commander. So.
Yeah, he looks cool. Oh well.
Steve, what about you? What are you collecting these days?
The real question is, what am I not collecting? So Bill and I had a combo. He's always trying to talk me out of buying stuff, but then he'll push for like one thing and really try to get me to buy it. But I'm collecting Classified. I'm collecting Super 7, Thundercats, Silverhawks are on pre-order, Masterverse, Origins, WWE, of course, everything that we do practically. And I can look around the room here. I just got the Frostbitten Lion-O at Comic-Con. This was kind of my prize of the show. Yeah, I mean, I'm an action figure guy. Marvel Legends, you name it, I buy it.
Very cool. Steve, we asked you this during your last appearance, but Bill, what got you into designing toys and how did you get to Mattel?
I always liked toys. Like even as a kid, I kind of held on to buying toys longer than other people my age. So I kind of aged out of it later, but I never really aged out of it. I always still kind of liked them, but never bought them. But then one day, I think it was actually when Toy Biz started putting out like the X-Men and X-Force stuff around 1991, back when that comic was out. I just thought the figures were really cool, so I bought a few of them, and then just fell back in with buying toys. I was buying a lot of Marvel, Toy Biz, and then about a year and a half after that, I was KB was having their clearing of the Hasbro WWF stuff at the time, and I picked up a Kamala for $3 for $10. I only picked up the Kamala, I remember, but like afterwards, I was like, man, I probably should have bought more. So I went back and bought more, and then like the floodgates just all basically they were all ripped open after that, and then it's been a huge part of my life for at least 25 years now, a long time.
So that love for figures, how did you turn that into design?
It was around 1999, and I was kind of unhappy with the way my career was going. I was a previous career I was an assistant manager at a pharmacy, and I just realized at some point like this wasn't what I wouldn't be happy doing this. So I had to figure out like what would I be happy doing, and I always had a little bit of artistic skill. I'm a serviceable artist. I can get an idea down on paper. So I thought, why don't I try to see if I can translate this into toy design, because I had ideas for toys that I would draw, and think like maybe is there a career in this? So I applied to FIT Toy Design School, and was not accepted, which was fine because I knew at the time my portfolio was not the greatest. But I did ask like, okay, what do I do so that the next time I apply, the answer changes? And the lady that ran the toy design program suggested that I go to FIT for illustration for 2 years. So I did that, and then applied for FIT toy design in 2001 and got in and graduated 2 years later. And I was at that point, I had a degree in toy design.
And was the obvious goal, like, at the outset, that you wanted to work on specifically wrestling figures, or was there something else that kind of led you there?
It's funny. When I decided I wanted to get started in toy design, I sent 2 letters to 2 different companies. I sent a letter to Jax about how do I work on WWE, and I sent a letter to Toy Biz how to work on Marvel. And then it was actually the lady at Toy Biz. Her name was Joanne McLaughlin. She was an incredibly nice person who basically took my call and talked to me for like a half hour, and I was a nobody. And she was like, a pretty bigwig in design. And she just told me, it's like, if this is something you're really serious about, you should apply to FIT Toy Design School. So I did, and I so there were 2 jobs that I really, really wanted to do, and I got one of them. Like I literally got one of my dream jobs that I got into the industry for. It's like, that's crazy.
It seems like we have a through line whenever we have designers on, that like everyone kind of chases their passion with this like tenacity and ends up either starting working adjacent to the thing that they want to actually work on, or ends up working on the actual thing that they want to work on. And it's incredible to hear it, because like here you are now, all these years later, and you're responsible for so many wrestling figures. It's just it's mind blowing.
Yeah, I've been busy. When I look at all like when I see people that show photos of their collections, and it covers an entire wall, and it's loose, and it's like I've probably worked on everything on that person's wall. Like that's when it starts to like really, like wow, like I have, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm responsible for creating a lot of figures, and it seems that people enjoy what I've worked on. So that's satisfying.
So speaking of projects coming to fruition, a year ago we were talking to Steve about the Ultimate New Gen Arena. The project was still in the process of getting funded, and we recently saw you guys do an unboxing of the final product. Do you have an update on when backers can expect to start receiving these?
So I believe we're still on track as communicated for end of August. That's kind of the best I can give right now. Those guys on the Mattel Creations team, they get the latest. Obviously that stuff ships via boat, then has to be potentially trucked somewhere, and then prepped for shipping. So I have received no indication that that's changed at this time. So I'm hopeful we're still completely on track with that schedule.
And how did it feel to just finally kind of see the finished product and see what everything kind of looked like? Do that kind of unboxing experience for the first time?
Well, I was incredibly impressed. Everything exceeded expectations. Like you kind of don't know, right? Like how final product is going to turn out. You can have the best intentions, and sometimes things don't work out for various reasons. But like I actually walked maybe just from room to room or across the hall or something with both an older ring from another company, one of the more recent scale rings, and this one, and it felt hefty and sturdy, and it was just so well done. So hats off to Bill for that. But Bill got to do the actual unboxing on the video, so let him go into detail on some of that.
It's funny. The most impressive thing to me about the unboxing was something that really wasn't able to be shown on the video. It's just how they were able to get all the pieces of that ring in the box. Because the box, I mean, it's a big box, but it's for what you're getting, it's not a big box. They have to fit a lot in there, and they have to fit in tight. And it's just kind of amazing, like the spatial engineering to get all those pieces in that box and have it all fit together, and then not have it so it's nothing's getting crushed. You're not getting. I was worried about getting like a severe crease on the ring mat because they jammed it to the side or something. It's like, no, they put that in properly. They placed everything in there. We were able to get 2 packaged Ultimates in the box, which I was skeptical of at first when I heard it's like that's the actual plan. We're actually able to fit them. They fit perfectly. It's kind of like, yeah, that was, I guess, because I was so familiar with just with designing it, like what the actual product was. I wasn't as familiar with like how they were going to actually get this to consumers who ordered it. Because when you build it out, it covers a big surface area, and then being able to like get that all in a box that's you can actually get to people's houses. It was kind of amazing to see it. And when I
hats
first saw
off
it.
to Jacob and George who worked on that. And I was in a lot of those meetings, and it was a lot of work and a lot of back and forth, but those guys are best in the business. So you can see the results here.
Yeah, I was surprised at that unboxing video when you guys just had that kind of like, I guess you'd call it a monolith right next to you, and I was like, oh, that whole like, I know that the Macho Man early bird stuff is going to be, a separate package, right? Like that's going to be separate from the actual arena itself. But even still, like same thing. Like I saw that box standing next to you, and I was like, oh, that must be just like the box for the archway. Like, and there's a separate unit for the the rest of the ring. But the fact that it's all in there is crazy.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Like I'm very, very excited for the day that thing arrives. Like it looks awesome.
It's big, but it's not so big that you can't, place it in your room somewhere or store it somewhere or put it in the closet. So that was kind of one of the side goals, to not have this box and packaging be so intimidating once you have it in your hands. So I think they accomplished that.
I've been backfilling my wrestling figure collection over the past year, focusing specifically on like new gen and earlier stuff. Knowing that ring is coming, because I cannot wait to shoot. I cannot wait to shoot figures in that ring. I'm already like, I literally have a spreadsheet with like a list of matches and like moments I'm going to try to recreate. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I have a personal list of figures I want to take shots of next to the entrance and the ring. And I mean, I don't want to jump ahead. I'm sure we'll talk about Comic-Con soon, but there's lots of figures in the pipeline. That Ultimate Shawn that's coming out, and the Jeff Jarrett that'll be perfect, with the ring and the entrance.
And those Raw letters too.
Oh yeah.
So, speaking of Jeff Jarrett returning, we had also another huge return earlier this year. Cody Rhodes made his return to the WWE at WrestleMania, and at Comic-Con, he revealed the first ever Ultimate Edition figure commemorating the American Nightmare's ESPY award-winning moment. So, what led to re-debuting Cody in the Ultimate line? As the kind of open pre-order, and tell us about what we can expect from this release.
Yeah, so it's a significant moment, right? I mean, Cody coming back to WWE after being with the competition for so long, and not only just being with the competition, but just like ingrained in every aspect of that company. And the reaction to his entrance, the match itself, like everything was special. So we wanted to move fast on something, and doing a special execution on Mattel Creation. I mean, that site, just having that site, opens the doors for us to do special things and experiment. So here was a chance, right? Here was a chance to do something quickly, get a pre-order open as quickly as possible, show you something, debut it quickly. And experiment with something new, which is the made-to-order pre-sale model. So that's something that's been asked for quite some time now. These online exclusives can go pretty quickly, and now we can test it out here with Cody, and see if the consumers are willing to dive into something like this, pre-order many months ahead of time. And support an item. But, with that, you have ease of purchase now, right? No stressing. You have a week to pre-order, place your order, and then you have to sit back and wait just under a year for it to show up. But it's exciting to do something like this. And if it goes well, hopefully that opens the door to do it more and more in the future. But the item, like, I would love to hear, and I'm sure you guys will as well, like Bill's thoughts on designing that figure and the soft goods and everything else that's involved.
Yeah, the challenge for me was because obviously he was in a previous company. That company made some really spectacular figures of him while there, and what can we do to make something to top that? And it was going to be very difficult. So the challenge was on me to do that. And one of the things that I wanted to do was seize on the use of soft goods on the entrance jacket, because his entrance jacket is so much like wrapped up as part of his character. So I'm in the process of designing the jacket and soft goods. It's going to be, so you can have the full range of movement on the coat for the entrance. And then also making sure that the detail on the shoulder pieces, like the scales, that's something that if you did that as pure soft goods, you'd probably lose some of the look and the detail on it. So I'm going to have that as integrated molded parts on a soft good jacket. So I'm still waiting to see how that all comes together, but I based off of, our sculpting teams are the best, obviously with Barbie, our soft good teams here are the best. So I can't wait to finally get the first sample on that. And then also I work with the best head sculptors in the industry. So we're going to make sure that it has the most accurate Cody Rhodes head sculpts, the best digital artists to duplicate the costuming worn. So I work with really phenomenal people that, help me to, do my job to the best of my ability. So on that aspect, it's a whole lot of people working really hard to make sure this is the best Cody Rhodes figure available anywhere from any company.
So we know, going into the design, seeing kind of these behind the scenes things that digital, is kind of at the forefront of the design process, seeing those renders and, kind of the turnarounds and everything. But for something like soft goods, especially something like that coat, which is that intricate, when you guys are designing that, is that more of a tactile thing? Like, are you guys, busting out different types of materials and testing, how things lay on each other and, actually kind of mocking things up, or is it still primarily a digital process?
It's mostly using reference photos of the outfit, and then just choosing which fabrics to use, and then they'll send me like a first pass at it, and then I will, based off of that, evaluate it, and then make changes if necessary. A lot of times, artwork has to be adjusted because you'll turn it over at one size, and when they place it on the pattern, it's maybe a little off. So a lot of what I will end up doing is like reworking the artwork to make sure that when it's on a figure, it looks exactly like it does in real life. Because sometimes the proportions of the figure don't exactly match a human, obviously because of the shoulders, because of it's a large ball as opposed to a more realistic looking human shoulder. Sometimes that causes things to be. They don't look as accurate as possible, so you have to account for stuff like that. It's really just having an eye to make the small adjustments to make sure that you're providing as accurate as possible at that scale and with the proportions.
So I think it's like, it is a combo of, that digital aspect of Bill finessing any designs that are on it. And it is a little more tactile with fabric and whatnot. But with it being not straight up digital, that's why you don't typically see soft goods represented on these early renders. Every time we do a reveal, whether it's Comic-Con or Access or an Elite Squad video, it's really just the figure and plastic accessories that are represented. And maybe when it's a little more advanced, we'll be able to do some sort of virtual model with soft goods represented. But that's usually not until much, much later. I think a good example would be like Undertaker and Kane's capes for Ultimate Edition. We had virtual models of that, but the figures were right around the corner. So it's pretty late in the game when we can get a virtual model that actually has soft goods. So that's why you don't see images of Cody, the figure with the coat, and why you typically don't see that. So usually if an Elite or Ultimate looks a little bare, and you didn't listen to the interviews or the panels or whatever, there's probably soft goods that are coming with it that we just couldn't show you during the reveal.
So this show is going to be airing on the 28th. So remind everyone who's listening, before we move on, where can they get their Ultimate Cody Rhodes?
They can get their Ultimate Cody Rhodes, and you guys can see this, but everyone's listening and they can't see it. But they can get their Ultimate Cody Rhodes with packaging that will replicate his entrance at WrestleMania 38, flap that comes down in the front and is angled, so it's going to be really cool with graphics and whatnot. Recreating his entrance, his American Nightmare, graphics on the front. All that is available for pre-order right now at MattelCreations.com. The pre-sale runs through this Friday, which is the 29th, and we are extending the time. We did hear a lot of people say they're waiting for Payday Friday, right? Very understandable after a crazy and exciting Comic-Con. So that will carry forward through 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So you have until midnight Pacific time, essentially 1 minute before midnight Pacific time on Friday to get your pre-orders in, and that's it. That's the only way you're going to be able to get this Ultimate Edition Cody Rhodes figure. The pre-sale will close, and then it'll be aftermarket only. So if you want to pay SRP, now's the time.
Awesome. So moving on from something that is very new to something that is evocative of something very old. So retros are back in a big way. Is the goal to continue with 2 waves a year moving forward?
So we will have 2 waves available on Mattel Creations in 2023. And the exciting news is that retros have expanded to Ringside Collectibles. But we're going to keep those single-carded box sets available on Mattel Creations. And Ringside is going to be getting retro tag teams. So the long-requested retro tag teams will live exclusively at ringsidecollectibles.com. The first set is The Outsiders, Hall and Nash, along with a 2-pack of Six and Hollywood Hogan. You can get those separately if you'd like, or together as a box set similar to the Mattel Creations box set. So Ringside has the ability to break those up if that's what you so choose. You just want the Outsiders, you can get that. Or you can get the whole shebang and get that sweet box, that sweet shipper box as well to go along with your Mattel Creations retros. So it's an exciting time. We've expanded a bit, due to the initial success of that first wave. And the second wave with the Hart Foundation, Jimmy Hart, and Nikolai Volkov, that goes on sale August 31st at 9 a.m. Pacific time on MattelCreations.com. So the retros are coming, and we couldn't be more excited.
Now, you guys snuck in at the end of San Diego Comic-Con there. You snuck in one little extra retro in the case in Jerry Lawler. So, what is that going to be? That's going to be a future wave, yeah?
Yes.
Awesome.
A little tease, yes.
And I think the big question that a lot of people had with it is, much like older Hasbro WWE figures like the Undertaker, is the hat the crown molded on Jerry's head, or is that going to be an accessory?
No, it's molded on. For stuff, we want to be sort of as in line with the original figures as possible. So when they had hats, they weren't removable. We made the decision to sort of, do that as well.
And then that kind of like, hey, this was never produced wave with Tugboat and Lex Luger. That's going to be the wave after the Hart Foundation and Jimmy Hart and Nikolai Volkov.
That's correct. That one's going to come out the beginning of 2023. We're kind of internally calling it the Lost Wave. So, maybe there'll be some other Easter eggs involved with that box set to tie it all together nicely. But that's an exciting one, right? Those are figures that we kind of knew of. We saw artwork for, or even photos, as in the case of Greg the Hammer Valentine, Rhythm and Blues Greg. So we longed for those figures and never got them, but now they're coming.
Again, another kind of what's old is new. The Raw 30th anniversary pack was a really cool surprise, and one that will certainly play nice for those who back the new gen arena, like Eric was talking about, with many historic moments from the early era of Raw. How difficult was it to narrow down the pack to include The Undertaker, Razor Ramon, and the 1-2-3 Kid?
So Bill and I, we have our lineup meetings, and there wasn't a lot of back and forth, really. We tossed out ideas and names, but it wasn't too hard. I think that 1-2-3 Kid Razor match, maybe we talked a little bit back and forth whether it should be the initial match or this one. And I think, if memory serves me correctly, Bill, you suggested this one because of the difference in their gear, right?
Yeah, I think it was that. There might have been some back and forth on whether it was the initial match, but I think I wanted this one because I really wanted to include the bag of money accessory. Because I just think it it's so of its time, and it would make a really cool accessory. And then at first it was going to be a molded part, and then I realized we could actually make it a soft good and use the new Cameron Grimes money tool and do the deco as 1992 or 1993 look of a whole bunch of money as opposed to 2022 look to make it that much more interesting. And then I was like, really, yeah, that's got to be it. And then we wanted to do something to commemorate the first episode of Raw. And it's the main event of it was Undertaker was in the main event, and it was Undertaker with like a hairstyle, sort of like not when he was growing it out from the initial sort of debut mullet look to the longer hair. This is like the in between stage. It's like we haven't ever actually done that on a figure. That's going to look good on a figure, and we did some new, especially with the also interchangeable hands. Got some new hand sculpts on there, so we do a lot of Undertaker, but when you can do like something new on it, it's really a compelling character to do a figure of.
Especially when you can have the dead man himself help announce it, right?
Yeah, that didn't hurt either.
Wild. It was wild. I think something that was going under the radar were the new gloves that Bill mentioned. We used the Randy Orton hands previously, for some of Undertaker's signature poses, but now you actually have the glove detail, the stitching sculpted onto those hands, so that's pretty cool. And talking about Undertaker helping debut it, we were trying to keep that a secret for so long and worried that it would leak out because what a moment, right, to surprise people with. And I didn't want that ruined. At the very least, I didn't want it ruined for the people in attendance in that room. So we did everything we could to keep it a surprise. And it was pretty surreal being on stage, when the Undertaker's music hits and then hearing the crowd erupt when they finally realize he's actually here and we're not just showing a figure with Undertaker's music playing.
And I thought it was, especially now that he's retired and he comes out and speaks as Mark and not the Undertaker. It was so great to hear him talk about his kids playing with his action figures and him tripping over them and stepping on them and stuff. Like it's wild after all these years to not only still be getting new Undertaker figures, but now to hear him actually talk about them. We weren't there. We were stuck in New Jersey, but thankfully due to people live streaming it on their phones and everything, and Mattel's recap coverage, we got to experience it from afar.
And the other cool thing too is you're seeing that era Undertaker. I don't think I might be wrong, but there hasn't been an Undertaker from the gray Undertaker with removable hands and with the glove detail. So it's really cool to kind of be able to catch up in that regard and get that era Undertaker, but with the new technology.
Yeah, I think we have purple and black gloves, right? Yeah, you're right. This is probably the first with the gray gloves, and it's really nice in person. At a quick glance, maybe you just think another early era Undertaker, but then when you actually have it in hand and look at the head sculpt and the hair, the glove detail, and the coat's really nice on it too. The hat is accurate. Is the hat new on this one or no, Bill?
No, it's an existing hat.
Okay. But it's a nice looking figure. And when you actually pay attention to all the details of it in hand, it really, kind of wows you.
So speaking of other things that wowed us at Comic-Con, which is going to be a through line for this interview, the No Holds Barred 2-pack was another home run of a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and another first. It was the first Ultimate Edition 2-pack. So along with the aforementioned Raw multi-pack coming to Target, and we haven't talked about it yet, but also the Mega Powers ringside exclusive. Can we expect to see more multi-packs in the future?
I think you saw one at the show, the Coliseum collection with the Hulk Hogan and Terry Funk 2-pack. A personal favorite of mine, which I've gone out of my way to say on multiple occasions how happy I am to be able to work on an Ultimate Terry Funk and have it work with the pairing with the Hulk Hogan as a DTC offering, which will also be available on Mattel Creations.
Yeah, so those multi-packs, I mean, like I said, Mattel Creations gives us a lot of opportunities to do different things. So Coliseum Collection, retro bundles, of course. And you're seeing more multi-packs at retail now. Raw at Target, the Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar pack, which goes up for pre-sale next month at Amazon. And if these do well, we'll keep them going, right? I said we needed to rest them a little bit and give us some time, and we'll come back strong. And I think we really did come back pretty damn strong this year.
Yeah, I mean that between the Coliseum pack, the packaging on that alone, and then of course the figures. But I have to call out what I think might be the greatest hand accessory mold of all time, which is the handshake in the Mega Powers pack.
Mhm.
I mean, just the because you could take two Seagrip hands and you can kind of make them fit together, but you guys molded those hands and gave Hogan that face. Like, it's just tell us a little bit about that.
That was fun. I know that we did that for Ringside, and they've always wanted a Mega Powers pack. And the challenge is what can we do to make this like really special? Because the outfits themselves, Hulk Hogan kind of has worn, throughout the '80s, he had the same look basically for many, many years. Obviously, the Mega Powers logo on the back of the tights was different, and then Randy's gear, the matching gear, was something special. But like, how do we really make this sing and make it different and be set beyond some of the entrance accessories which we include on the figure? And of course, when everyone thinks of the Mega Powers, they think of that moment on Saturday's Main Event where they have that handshake where their hands like kind of approach at odd directions, and then they finally grip, and then Hulk Hogan gets that look on his face like he's closing his eyes like he's in ecstasy. And it's like, we have to, like, if we're gonna do a Mega Powers pack, it can't just be based off the match. We have to somehow recreate that image from Saturday Night's Main Event too, where they do the very dramatic handshake, and then it became like, since we are doing interchangeable hands, like we can actually do something where you remove the right hands of each character and do like one piece where they actually connect and shake hands, and you can have that posing in the package like that. Like, that's never been done before. Like, so when that bolt of inspiration struck, I was like, yeah, we have to do this. And then working with our sculpting team and getting the hands just right. And then when you finally see it, on the figures for the first time and stand them up, 'cause sometimes when I get the first samples of these, like I'm like a little kid in a candy store. It's like, oh my gosh, they're here. I want to see what this like hypothetical design I was thinking about actually looks like in real life. And then when I plug that together and pose them on my tabletop, I'm like, oh, this is exactly how I saw it in my head, and it works. People are gonna go nuts when they see this, and thankfully they did.
So it being quite a Comic-Con for deep cut Hogan heads. You have the what's that smell face. You have the ecstasy of a handshake face, and then you have the fist gladiator helmet. You're checking all of the deep cut Hogan looks. Oh, and how can I forget Mr. America? You have
We don't know who that is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's not
Mr.
Hogan.
America.
I'm sorry. Actually, yeah, my bad. I'm sorry.
It's his
There's
first
a little
time in the line.
similarity.
Exactly. But I think one of the requests was, when you get these superstars under contract, to try to maximize them, and not miss significant looks before contracts end, because you never know, right? You never know if someone's just like, I'm not going to resign, or I want more money, or I'm going to go elsewhere, because there is competition. So with Hogan, and you can see it with others, we're really trying to crank out some of the most requested looks, and get them out there. Because I mean, we can do Hogan's forever, right? So why not, right now while we have them, make the most of it. And we can always slow down a little bit, after this run that we're doing, because there's plenty to do even after we've gone through the major looks. Because Hogan's always going to do well.
And that SummerSlam Elizabeth from, was it last year? Can go with them, right with them.
Yeah.
Oh,
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yep.
Maybe we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
The aftermarket on that Elizabeth in the next couple of weeks is going to be fun to watch.
And then, with lest we forget the Coliseum collection, like just seeing back to the what's old is new, just seeing like those figures represented, those LJN figures represented in new technology is awesome to see. You know, the old packaging, it makes sense with Slaughter being kind of like Series 0 from last year.
Yeah, so we knew there was, some desire there after Slaughter came out to continue something like that. It was too good of a packaging execution to just let it go, and it was tied to a line that ran several years. So we're looking for an opportunity to, fill. It's a slot. It's called slots, right? So we had this slot available on Mattel Creations, and we wanted to make it special. And we ultimately aligned on this. Why not just keep it going with what we started with Sarge? So, I mean, you're going to see, your heavy hitters, of course, anchoring these bundles, and now the door is open for world building and Ultimate Edition, basically. So you have your legendary talent like your Terry Funks of the world who are going to get the ultimate treatment. So it's really exciting, and I can't wait for you to see who we have on tap, coming up, especially in those surprise slots, basically.
So the upcoming WrestleMania Hollywood wave brings 2 iconic matches to our collections with a Mean Gene Build-A-Figure. So they've been presented for the first time in this format where we've had specific matches represented in a wave. What made you structure the wave this way?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like sometimes Bill and I can have, long, conversations and try to align on lineups, but this one I feel like came together pretty quickly once again. It's WrestleMania Hollywood, right? So we wanted to include Rock. Hogan makes sense, right? Hollywood Hogan. I think I may have just thrown out that Dusty because I've always wanted the inverted color top Dusty. And it just seemed like the right time, and Randy fell into place, so it was really just like a quick, things that make sense, a wish list item, and then, Randy just completely makes sense on top of it all. And then Gene, looking for a Build-A-Figure. Maybe that was a little tougher, trying to find what the Build-A-Figure would be, but you can't go wrong with Mean Gene. I think the last time he came out as an elite was the flashback line. It'll be 5 years at that point.
Yeah.
So it was a good time to revisit Mean Gene, and I think Bill killed it with his new head sculpt. And I think he'll have double jointed elbows too, right?
I believe so.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be able to pick up that collection and have 2 matches ready to go. It's a lot of fun, and especially too so obviously the Hogan Rock match being newer, but going back to that New Gen arena, having that ring, take the entranceway out of the equation, but having that scale, red, white, and blue, blue post ring. You guys keep adding figures that add value to that ring. So everybody that backed that, looking at the stuff that's coming down the pipeline from San Diego Comic-Con, it's just again oh, I can shoot these, I can pose these in this ring, I can shoot these in this ring. This all works. And that Dusty and Macho absolutely fill that void.
Yeah, I think you saw Battle Stories. I don't know if you saw his video for No Holds Barred, but he used the New Generation ring for that No Holds Barred video, and it's just perfect. And granted, the ring skirts themselves are a few years later, but it doesn't matter anymore, right? You're watching that video and nobody notices that. It's just it's within the window of time, and it's just it perfectly complements so many of those golden era figures. So I actually haven't set it up at home yet, just because there's so much stuff around. But yeah, I can't wait to break it out and shoot it with the golden era guys as well as the new generation superstars.
So kind of sticking with the thought process, behind making some of these decisions, what goes into the the decision making to bring a figure like the upcoming Rick Rude Build-A-Figure, where he had the Raw and Nitro moments in the same night, and Andre turning heel, during the Snake Pit segment, or even a deep cut like we mentioned before, like Hulk Hogan wearing his fist helmet. Where do these kind of these picks come from?
I think for me, it's when I work on the Elite line, I'm almost thinking about like, what does this figure look like just as a silhouette, with no color. So when you have something like when you do a Hulk Hogan, the silhouette on a lot of them is basically the same. But when you add that helmet and the license plate around his neck, suddenly the silhouette of the figure is different because the helmet is so different, the license plate is so different from anything you see on another figure, that even if you have 9 Hulk Hogans or Hollywood Hogans on your shelf in a row, when you add this one, it's going to stand out because it looks different. So for the Rick Rude in particular, we've done a few Rick Rudes. We've never done him sort of as the Associated DX in '97. Obviously, the silhouette's very different, and then the switching of the heads was just because technically it was 90. It was based on Survivor Series 1997. A lot of fallout from that event, and one of them was that Rick Rude appeared on both shows in the same day in a pretty memorable span of an hour. And he showed up on Raw. I'm not sure which one he showed up on first, but one of them, Raw had the full beard, Nitro had the mustache, and that was brilliant on his end to to do that. And then being able to capture that in a figure form, it's like when we do that head, it's like we actually have to have both heads because we have to, even though it's not technically part of Survivor Series, we have to be able to recreate that moment somehow in a figure form. And that's part of like the really fun aspect of the job is to be able to call back to things like that people remember as like, wow, that was a really big moment at the time, and now we can recreate it in an action figure. I get a kick out of it. I work on the assumption that the people that collect it get the same sort of kick out of it as well. So hopefully they do.
I think these are just like such memorable moments for me. Like I'm just trying to, recreate these images or moments that are just burned into my brain as significant. I mean, Bill brings in the design aspect and he wants something different visually. I mean, for me, I push for stuff that it's just like when you say a name, it's like certain moments and images pop into my head. And I think, just being a longtime fan, those images are probably shared amongst a lot of us, right? Like Hogan's helmet, for an example, like none of us have probably seen him actually wear that in a match, but we've all seen the images and we've all been like, what the heck is this? And we know about it, right? So it's just really fun to include that stuff that we know about. And with the pay-per-view waves, it's not just the pay-per-views that were significant. It's like the build up to them were incredibly memorable, the pay-per-views themselves, and then the fallout of the pay-per-views, right? So it's cool with something like Rick Rude to get, the aftermath of that Survivor Series. And then I think, it allows us to take a little bit of liberties to get out the looks that we think people will want rather than be stuck with the pay-per-view itself. Like with Doc Hendricks, he's in the pink suit. And he didn't wear a pink suit at Royal Rumble, but he did for the build up for that. So, we are able to push the boundaries a little bit and not be so locked into, just the pay-per-view, because there's a lot surrounding it that is involved with the pay-per-view that was really significant.
Now, you were saying before, like, you weren't sure with the Mean Gene, and then, you mentioned Doc Hendricks and Rick Rude as these Build-A-Figures. How do you decide what Build-A-Figure, like, what the Build-A-Figure is going to be?
I mean, you're just looking at your roster of available talent. You're obviously considering the business side of things with cost and tooling, available parts, all that stuff. So you just like have this amalgamation of information that you're trying to sift through and come up with someone that's actually achievable. So with Doc, we obviously have him under a deal as Michael Hayes. So, in my mind, he was earmarked, right? Like, it's nothing that's said, but I'm sure Bill has a mental list of to do superstars. I do, Rob does, we all do. And we wait for these moments to pitch them, so to speak, right? When we go to have a lineup conversation. I mean, Doc makes great sense for a Build-A-Figure, right? So where should it be? So it was just a moment where, we're going over our options, and he makes sense here. It's time, and we pull the trigger on it. There will be other times where, maybe you invest a little more in tooling and you get something a little more unique than a suited character. So, it's just evaluating everything we have at our disposal, the tooling budget, the X factory, which is the cost of the figure, balancing everything, right? So you can't have like 4 variations of Asukas, or you'll never be able to afford the wave. So it's a balancing act with your wish list of talent, basically.
If you want to give us a wave of 4 Asukas, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, Eric would be very happy.
I would love to, but yeah, I personally wouldn't mind a wave of 6 Oscars, but I'd probably lose my job because it'd be so expensive to produce.
I'll just say, if there's somebody that deserves, I'm just gonna throw it out there. If there's somebody that deserves an ultimate with, entrance gear, that coat and everything, Asuka's a good one. Asuka would be a good one. Just saying.
But you're preaching to the choir here.
So, we mentioned Build-A-Figures, and these big events have celebrities attached to them. Celebrities from outside of WWE have been a major part of WWE history. We've seen Mr. T and Rob Gronkowski. Now Pat McAfee and Johnny Knoxville have become immortalized in plastic. What's the process for including a celebrity in the line, and are there plans for more celebrity figures?
Yeah, let's not forget Mr. T, Zeus. They all kind of fall under the same category. It's working with WWE and coming up with a business plan for them, right? Maybe there's some interest, right? This talent is going to be joining us for these events. Is there an interest for action figures? And it's usually yes from us, because we know that the requests are going to come from the consumers. So the business plan is kind of my job. I give Bill a ring, and we kind of map out what we realistically think we can accomplish releasing for one of these talents, and then I put the numbers behind it and say, hey, if you sign this talent, this is what we'll try to deliver for you, figure execution wise and money wise. And then I'm sure they might go out to some of their other partners as well, because there's video games involved and other collectibles. And they see if they're going to get their ROI back, right? Which is sometimes why it's tough for some of the tertiary talent of the past, right? Like if we come back and say, hey, we can really just do one, right? Maybe that makes it tough for them to sign somebody. But if it's a big enough talent, if we think though that we'll be able to ship a lot of product, it makes those conversations much easier. And then poor Bill has to actually make all these figures that I promise.
I really enjoyed making the Johnny Knoxville figure, just because, again, like from a silhouette standpoint, so different from anything else you're going to have on your collection. A lot of unique parts with him. And the match itself at WrestleMania was just way too much fun. Like I had, I don't know what sort of expectations I had for that going in, but it exceeded them by leaps and bounds. So it's like when I found out like he was available to do as a figure, it's like, yeah, we're definitely doing that.
So it was tough to tell in the gray render. So he's going to be in the gear from that match.
Yeah, it'll be in the WrestleMania gear.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was way too much fun, that match. Like, I had so much fun watching it.
They had good producers.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, and if you're looking for a fun accessory, you should pack a giant mousetrap in there with them.
The mousetrap table.
So from celebrities to kind of greatest hits here. So you guys recently announced that the greatest hits collection is coming to the elite lineup. What can we expect to see more waves of these greatest hits in the future, and kind of what led to the selection of who to include in these greatest hits?
I definitely think you'll be seeing this more. I think there's a realization, at least on my end, that like the people that are collecting this line, like there's the very few of them have been collecting since we started in 2010. I think a lot of them have come on board later, and there's some early figures that just on the secondary market are just inaccessible for people that just can't afford them, and like it's unfair to penalize newer collectors by saying, well, you had your chance to get this if you would have been here, when we released that in 2010, let's just say. And there's other figures that for one reason or another were hard to come by. So we want to make sure that everyone that has, that can collect our line has a reasonable chance to collect what we put out. So that was sort of the impetus behind the, what's the official name of it? The best of assortment or
The greatest hits.
Greatest hits. Okay.
So, everything Bill said there, we know that there's a continuous cycle of collectors coming in and out of the hobby. And, if there's a look that you loved, a memorable look, like why, to Bill's point, why should you be shut out if you just joined and have to pay $500 like to get, your favorite looks? But we're still being conscientious of the original collectors who have these mint and package. Packaging will be different. It'll be your modern elite packaging with the greatest hits logo. And there's differences on the figures as well. They're all upgraded to the modern double jointed elbows. When possible, we've applied True FX DIJ to the faces. So there are differences, right? So if you have that original Legends Bam Bam Bigelow in Legends packaging, that's still pretty damn cool and special. So I don't think, this is really going to devalue those old, classic package figures as much as, some people might be worried about. It's just a way to get a modernized version of those particular figures out.
So we've finally gotten there. We've reached wave 100 of the elites. Congratulations on the milestone. How does it feel to get to this point after 12 or so years? And how did you decide who to include in the series and which eras to represent and which, accessories and things of that nature?
I was thinking about this, this morning. It's like, I don't know if there's ever been, and this is maybe me pat my own back, I don't know if there's ever been anyone who's designed 100 straight series of a figure, all, kind of, being responsible for every figure in that assortment. I might be, alone in that, which is kind of bizarre to think about. But yeah, we're at Elite 100. I say already, but it's like, it seems like already, yes, but it's like, it has been 14 years since I started this.
It's impressive.
And to have done it twice too with basics, like 2 series of 100.
Yeah, like I guess I'm trying hard. I'm trying to stay a little humble here, but it's like when I thought about it, when I was thinking about it to myself, like I kind of impressed myself when I was thinking about it. It's like that's crazy to think about, like that you can do that. Like I don't know if just because of the way that action figures now are, if it would be possible for anyone to repeat this, because things change. Like elites have lasted as a consistent, unchanging line for 14 years. Elites and basics have been basically the same thing for 14, well, I guess for 12 years on the market and then even longer in development. That is kind of impressive when you look back on it. And to have your name attached to every single figure in elites leading up to all 100, I mean, that's probably going to be like my life's achievement, and I'm fine with that. Yeah. And then for the specifics on Elite 100, we wanted to do something similar to what we did with the basic 100, which was to concentrate on top talent in WWE. And the hook was to make sure that each one got a first time execution of a specific title belt, because we knew that title belts were one of the accessories that resonates the most with elite collectors. So for The Rock, you have that Brahma Bull belt, which has never been offered before. For Andre the Giant, you have that oversized title that was created for him in the event that he won at WrestleMania 3. For Becky Lynch, we've actually resized we're no longer just sort of molding the men's belt in white and then sticking plates on it. We've resized the belt to fit the smaller size, that the women's belts are slightly smaller than the men's belt on programming. So that's a whole new belt. For John Cena, the belt plate, the middle belt plate actually spins, which it never did before. Like, that's a new part. Stunning Steve Austin has the old TV title on the red leather, which was always one of the most striking belts, watching back in the day. Like, I love the look of that belt, and then we're including that as an accessory. And then for Rey Mysterio, he has the actual WCW version of the Cruiserweight belt, whereas previous versions had the WWE version, which was similar, but there are structural and cosmetic differences between the two belts that have never been on a previous Cruiserweight titles. Now we're going to actually have the accurate to that time frame Cruiserweight belt, and also each figure has a brand new head sculpt to go with it as well. I know specifically for the Rey Mysterio, he's got a WCW era mask where he had that little piece of fabric running under the nose. It's a little detail, but it's one that collectors, they notice, and they get really enthusiastic when they see it, because in the past, we've used existing tools to represent that era, and now for Elite 100, now's the time to sort of let's actually recreate this exactly as it was, and stuff like that is fun.
And let's not forget about the packaging. We've partnered with Jonathan Bartlett, who, not to be confused with Rob Bartlett from Monday Night Raw, but Jonathan Bartlett, who is who's an amazing
deep cut reference,
he's an amazing artist who's worked on, you name it, he's worked on it, and partnered with NBA, NFL, HBO, Netflix, and of course WWE. He does those annual WrestleMania posters, which are just unbelievable. I have a bunch of them myself. He did a Cody Rhodes poster recently. So he's kind of like, a hot new current artist with WWE. He's going to be doing the studio shot, quote unquote. So that pose photo as if it was taken in a WWE studio, as well as an action type shot to be featured on the back. And then, the packaging will be like that platinum look that you saw in Basic Series 100, but, just like expanded upon, since this is for elites. So, between all new titles, new head sculpts, fantastic packaging by John, as well as our designer, George, who worked on these. I think, once you see this as a whole, figures and package, you're going to really be wowed.
So going forward, now that you've resized the women's title, is that going to be the one, like, for future future Raw and SmackDown Women's Champions? Like, they'll be getting that form factor belt?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's really
Awesome.
cool to get like that TV title and the WCW Cruiserweight title in the line. Like, it's just really cool to see. Like, that those are two very kind of striking belts or titles. So it's
$1,000 fine.
Yep.
Next, you're going to say you want a title shot. You can get another fine.
You might be able to say that now.
Well, this is true. So before we ask you our final question and let you go, it's time for a little Q&A.
This segment is brought to you by our friends at Chubsy Wubsy Toys. A traditional mom-and-pop toy store in Little Falls, New Jersey, Chubsy Wubsy Toys brings you the best new toys from the brands you love without the hassle of pounding the pavement searching for them at larger retail stores. Visit them in person at 106 Main Street in Little Falls, New Jersey, or online at chubsywubsy.com. That's ChubsyWubsy.com. And tell them Adventures in Collecting sent you.
So we posted that we were going to have you guys on, and some members of the wrestling figure community had some questions for you guys. So we have 4 questions from our followers, and if you want the opportunity to ask a question on a future Adventures in Collecting interview, make sure you're following us at AIC_podcast on Instagram. We will always post when we have guests on, and we are always looking for Q&A questions. We understand that not everybody is fortunate enough to have access to people like Steve and Bill, and we want to make sure that we share some of that time at least with our followers. So, Dave, you want to hit them with our first question?
I sure could. At prophetically_speaking asks, are there plans to include more NXT 2.0 talent as elite figures?
We definitely have our eye on NXT 2.0. There are certainly some talents there that have been announced for the elite line in particular. The one I work on, we have Mandy Rose coming out, and there are likely others as well. It all depends on a lot of it depends on TV time and how they're established in that TV time, because a lot of the talent there is brand new. So we haven't seen them before. It takes time to sort of get that emotional connection with the people that are purchasing the figures. So if someone shows up one or two times on NXT 2.0, chances are they're not going to be they're lower on the list than someone who's been on the show like since the reworking of NXT, that has a place, a consistent place on the show of importance. So it was a little bit of a change when the changeover, and then sort of who we could pick from NXT as opposed to NXT 2.0. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be doing NXT 2.0 figures.
Yeah, I think the hiccups of hiccups on our end, but the entertainment changed. And it changed pretty quickly after we were already in a little bit of a groove with things. So, things have stabilized now. It's kind of established what it is and is going to be. And I think if it changes again, it'll be an evolution and not as disruptive. So, once stabilization happens, and it's already happening, we'll start cranking more out. You need some reliability, right? You need some reliability with the figures you're choosing, and have some confidence that that talent is hopefully going to still be around when the figure actually hits a year later, because you're planning these things so far ahead, and that there's some viability. And I think right before all these changes happen in the company, we were pretty damn good at kind of earmarking people that we thought were going to be hot. And, there was a nice streak going there for a while where, we were picking talent, and they were like really heating up by the time the figures came out, like Ricochet, and several others who, may no longer be with WWE. But yeah, we had a nice little streak going there, and hopefully, with our combined, long-time fan minds, we can get back to that.
All right, our next question comes from @FigVault. There's recently been some updates to the packaging in the Elite line, but will the Legends line continue to run in the same packaging look since its revival, or are there plans to refresh that as well?
It's my hope to keep it the same. It's my hope to keep lines where packaging is integral to the offering the same. Legends, Ultimate Edition, Coliseum Collection now, retros, right? Some of those, it's like the packaging is just as important as, the figures themselves in some cases. So, those are discussions that we have to keep having. And it seems like a lot of the key players agree. So, there is an evolution happening and changes happening in the industry. So we can't really, hide from that. But in instances where it makes sense and where packaging is extra important, we're going to do everything we can to keep it consistent.
Toy Farce asks, if you could make an Ultimate Edition of any wrestler regardless of affiliation, who would it be?
Puma King.
All right.
Nice. Not what I was expecting. Nice.
He, we saw him at some local shows here several times, and he's so damn entertaining and toyetic. I was hoping he would sign with WWE and we can crank out a couple figures, but maybe someday.
I'm going to go with Kenta Kobashi. I've always been a Kenta Kobashi mark. I've always wanted to do a Kenta Kobashi figure. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I didn't think I'd ever be able to work on an Ultimate Terry Funk, and here we are. So,
listen, if we get a year where you get to make us 2 Terry Funk figures, nothing is out of the realm of possibility. So
that is true.
All right, and our final Q&A question here comes from @AlexWestCollects. What goes into the thought process behind reuse of parts when designing a figure? And where do you draw the line and say, hey, we need a new part for this? For instance, Hogan's later run body shape compared to his earlier looks.
So I think, and Bill will chime in here in a second. When you have an extremely unique look, whether it's body parts or ring gear or accessories, you want to prioritize that for your tooling expenses. When you have bodies that are kind of similar to other talent, that's your opportunity to, you have to balance everything, right? So you balance everything out by, choosing other body parts that may exist already. And then there's always the monkey wrench of part compatibility, right? Sometimes you have parts in mind, and they're, for some weird reason, the connectors don't work, or there's a gap, when you put a torso onto a lower torso, or there's too much height or too short. There's a lot of these variables that come into play. But I mean, the fact that we have just like endless part tools at our disposal and Bill's able to manage that is miraculous.
Yeah, I've worked on so many figures now, and we have so much existing tooling that. But again, you come into situations where, like, let's say for like someone like Yokozuna, like obviously, and that this is an extreme example, but it's like there's not a lot of existing parts that will work with him, so you sort of have to figure out, maybe hands, maybe feet, but everything else you have to do from scratch. Whereas, with other characters, their body types are sized similar. You can reuse tooling. Make sure that you hit your tooling budget for the year, which is very important. Which is one of the internal things that the people that are buying the toys don't have the exposure to. That we have to we have to hit a budget. Like as much as I'd love to, and as much as I might love, I would as a collector, I'd love to have it. As someone who's working on it, it would probably drive me crazy. But like I can't 100% tool everything from scratch for each figure to get the nuance of like he has 14 laces on his boot where this one has 15 laces. It's wrong. If we have an existing boot, that works in between figures, that's part of my job too, is to manage that aspect of design as well. Luckily at this point we have, years and years of tooling bank that we can draw upon so that we can, when a situation calls for, we can add the new tooling to make sure it's most accurate. And I max out my tooling budget every year. Like I'm not skimping on tooling on anything. So, and Steve will back that because he's the one that has to maybe sometimes figure out where we're going to get some of this tooling money to balance the book, so to speak. Which Peter are we going to rob to pay for Paul, so to speak?
Bill makes me sweat with the tooling budget. So I know Alex. We chat. Bill probably knows Alex as well. I know what he's getting at here. Obviously, he talked about Hulk specifically, and we know there's a desire for an updated torso for the 2000. Well, I guess NWO, right, and on. So it's something we're considering, but at the end of the day, we have to balance the tooling budget. And if we tool a brand new torso for him, that means, Dewdrop doesn't get made, right? Or someone who has like a lot of unique parts. So we have to just make those hard decisions sometimes. And, we do explore alternate options. And like I said earlier, sometimes there's just like this weird compatibility issues, or it causes height problems or whatever. So we're aware of certain desires for certain parts, or new parts for people, and it's something we're always like looking into. And when the time is right, maybe some specific talent can get upgrades.
Well, with that, we've reached the end of our fan Q&A. So thank you everybody for submitting your questions, and that leads us to our final question. So, Dave, would you like to fulfill your role as this podcast's James Lipton and ask our final question?
Yes, I would. The final question that we ask of all of our guests: what is your favorite and/or strangest piece in your collection? It can be one of each, or it can be both.
My favorite figure that I've worked on is the first defining moments, Randy Savage, just because of it was the first Randy Savage figure being designed for a WWE figure line, gosh, in like maybe 13, 14 years at that point. It was a long time. And like the fact that I was able to do it, the fact that I was able to meet Randy Savage to create the video that was shown at San Diego Comic-Con in 2010, where that was announced, and to sit in his living room and have him cut promos on how awesome the figure was and how much he liked the design and all the details. I mean, it's a memory that's so intrinsically involved with that figure that even though now I think I could do a better version of a Macho Man from WrestleMania 7 in our Ultimate line, just based off of the advances in technology and the growth of our tool bank and a whole bunch of other things. Like, I think I can do that figure better, but I will never enjoy the process of creating a figure as much as that figure. And the strangest figure in my collection, there's a Chara Pro figure from Japan of Razor Ramon HG, which I'm just going to leave that out there. You have to look it up. If I say any more about the character, I'll probably get in trouble. But I could believe this was made into an action figure. And so when I saw it was made into an action figure, the first time I was in Tokyo, I saw it in a store. I'm like, they made an action figure of this guy? I don't care how much this costs. This is definitely going home with me. And it's a very unusual character, and I own that. So that's probably the most unusual.
Favorite figure? I mean, I was looking around the room as Bill was answering. I'm like, what the heck am I going to say? Because there's just stuff surrounding me. But, maybe favorite figure would be the Ultimate Edition Hulk Hogan figure that just came out. Just knowing, that discovering that character as a kid, that character was so meaningful at the time, standing for what's right and everything like that. And it just resonated to young me so much. And, just being able to have an Ultimate Edition figure, a line that I helped create with Bill, of that character that changed the course of my life, made me fall in love with wrestling. That's probably the favorite thing that I own. And as far as weird things, I've been collecting. I usually take a trip to Mexico once a year, and I've been collecting like bootleg figures from Mexico. So I have some Ninja Turtles, and I have a weird Spider-Man and Green Goblin. And most of them have these weird light up features, and the people who sell them to you are like really excited to show you the light up features. And I'm like, kind of, it makes no sense, but okay. But most recently I bought this like little bagged set of Sesame Street characters, and boy, they look terrible. But terrible paint. They're translucent plastic for no reason. But it's all like the core characters. So that's probably my favorite weird thing that I have right now.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, but before we sign off for the evening, remind everybody, where can we find you guys on the internet? And one more time, where can we pre-order that Ultimate Cody Rhodes?
I'm down to Instagram at Bill Miekina. I'm on there. It's about the only social media I follow. And I'll let Steve do the rest of the plugs.
All right. Action Figure Attack on Instagram, Action Fig Attack on Twitter. I'm on the forums, the Ringside forums under Action Figure Attack. I'm in a lot of the Facebook groups as well, just under my name, Steve Ozer. I usually pop in with little nuggets of wisdom once in a while and then get, maybe yelled at or whatever. For Cody Rhodes, please, jump on this opportunity. I say this sometimes, but we did this with the crowdfund. We're unlocking something really cool here, right? I think WWE has been lucky enough at Mattel to be pioneers of trying new things and paving the way. So, if this open pre-order, made to order pre-sale is successful, like who knows what it can unlock for WWE and even other brands, right? Same thing went for that crowdfund. The Motu team just announced that Eternia was coming at Comic-Con. So it's like a large playset like that. We kind of paved the way for something like that happening, right? By showing it was possible to do something big and expensive and get it out there. So, you guys supporting things like crowdfunds from us and made to order pre-orders when it's the first time, we're testing the waters and we're nervous but excited at the possibilities. So, make sure you head over to MattelCreations.com, support that open pre-order the Cody Rhodes, and that pre-order runs through this Friday night, the 29th, ending at 11:59 Pacific time.
And we'll make sure we put links to Cody as well as where to follow you guys on social in the show notes. So that way, not that remembering MattelCreations.com is particularly difficult, but we'll make sure that we put links to that in the description below, so that way you guys can get to them nice and easy. Steve, Bill, thank you guys so much for joining us on Adventures in Collecting. It has been an absolute blast chatting with you. Let's do this again sometime.
My pleasure as always.
Dave, you want to send us home?
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both in our show notes.
Follow us on social media at AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.